The history of policing in the United States. The improvement of policing in the United States firmly followed the improvement of policing in England. In the early states, policing took two structures. It was both casual and common, which is alluded to as the watch, or on the other hand private for benefit policing, which is classified the Big Stick, Spitzer, 1979. The watch framework was made out of local area chips in whose essential obligation was to caution of looming risk. Boston made a night watch in 1636, New York in 1658 and Philadelphia in 1700. The night watch was not an especially compelling wrongdoing control gadget. Guards frequently rested or drank working. While the watch was hypothetically deliberate, many volunteers were essentially endeavoring to avoid military assistance, were recruit constrained into administration by their town, or were performing watch obligations as a type of discipline. Philadelphia made the principal day watch in 1833 and New York initiated a day watch in 1844 as an enhancement to its new Metropolitan Police power. Gaines, Capella, and Vaughan 1999. Increasing the watch framework was an arrangement of constables, official law requirement officials, normally paid by the charge framework for warrants they served. Constables had an assortment of non-law implementation capacities to proceed to, counting, filling in as land assessors and confirming the exactness of loads and measures. In numerous urban areas, constables were given the obligation of regulating the exercises of the night watch. These casual modalities of policing proceeded with well after the American unrest. It was not until the 1830s that the possibility of a concentrated city police division initially arose in the United States. In 1838, the city of Boston set up the main American police power, trailed by New York City in 1845, Albany, NY and Chicago in 1851, New Orleans and Cincinnati in 1853, Philadelphia in 1855, and Newark, NJ and Baltimore in 1857, Hawing 1983, Lundman 1980, Lynch 1984. By the 1880s all major U.S. urban areas had city police powers set up. These advanced police associations had comparable qualities. They were freely upheld and administrative in structure. Cops were all-day representatives, not local area volunteers or made-to-order expense retainers. Divisions had long-lasting and fixed principles and strategies, and work as a cops. In the southern states, the improvement of American policing followed a distinctive way. The beginning of the Advanced Police Association in the South is the Slave Patrol, Platt 1982. The principal formal slave watch was made in the Carolina States in 1704, Reichel 1992. Slave watches had three essential capacities: 1. To pursue down, catch, and return to their proprietors, runaway slaves; 2. To give a type of coordinated dread to stop slave rebellions; and 3. To keep a type of discipline for slave laborers who were dependent upon rundown equity, outside of the Following the Common War, these vigilante-style associations developed in current Southern police divisions basically as a method for controlling liberated slaves who were presently workers working in an agrarian rank framework, and upholding Jim Crow isolation laws, intended to deny liberated SLA. The key inquiry, obviously, is what was it about the United States during the 1830s that required the advancement of neighborhood, unified, regulatory police powers? One answer is that urban areas were developing. The U.S. was as of now not an assortment of little urban areas and provincial villages. Urbanization was happening at a consistently stimulating speed. What's more, old casual watch and constable framework was presently not satisfactory to control problem. Recounted accounts propose expanding wrongdoing and bad habit in metropolitan habitats. Crowd brutality, especially savagery coordinated at settlers and African Americans by white adolescents, happened with some recurrence. public problem, generally open tipsiness and now and again prostitution, was more apparent and less handily controlled in becoming metropolitan focuses than it had been country towns. Walker 1996. Be that as it may, proof of a genuine wrongdoing wave is deficient. Along these lines, if the cutting-edge American police power was not a direct reaction to wrongdoing, then, at that point, what was it a reaction to? More than wrongdoing, present-day police powers in the United States arose as a reaction to jumble. What comprises social and public request depends generally on who is characterizing those terms, and in the urban communities of 19th-century America they were characterized by the commercial. More than wrongdoing, current police powers in the United States arose as a reaction to jumble. Quote, these financial interests had a more prominent interest in friendly control than wrongdoing. Control, private and for-benefit policing, was excessively muddled and too crime-specific in structure to satisfy these necessities. The arising business elites required a system to safeguard a steady and efficient work power, a steady and deliberate climate for the direct of business, and the support of what they alluded to as the aggregate great Spitzer and Skull 1977. These trade interests additionally needed to strip themselves of the expense of securing their own ventures, moving those expenses from the private area to the state. Keeping a steady and restrained work power for the creating framework of industrial facility creation and guaranteeing a protected and serene local area for the direct of trade required a coordinated arrangement of social control. The creating benefit-based arrangement of creation estranged social pressures in the local area. Disparity was expanding quickly, the double dealing of laborers through extended periods of time, perilous working conditions, and low compensation was endemic. Furthermore, the strength of neighborhood governments by financial elites was making political turmoil. The main powerful political system accessible to took advantage of laborers was what monetary elites alluded to as revolting, which was really a crude type of what might become association strikes against businesses. Silver 1967. The advanced police power not just gave a coordinated, brought-together group of men, and they were all male, lawfully approved to utilize power to keep up with request, it additionally gave the hallucination that this request was being kept up with under law and order, not at the impulse of those Characterizing social control as wrongdoing. Control was cultivated by raising the apparition of the perilous classes. The idea was that public tipsiness, wrongdoing, hooliganism, political fights and labor riots were the results of a organically substandard, ethically unreasonable, incompetent. The utilization of liquor was broadly seen as the significant reason for wrongdoing and public issue. The incongruity, obviously, is that public tipsiness didn't exist until trade and business intrigues made settings for and empowered the business offer of liquor out in the open spots. This underclass was without any problem recognizable on the grounds that it comprised essentially of poor people, unfamiliar outsiders and free blacks. Lundman 1980-29. This segregation of the perilous classes as the exemplification of the wrongdoing issue made a concentration in wrongdoing control that continues to the present time. The possibility that policing ought to be coordinated toward terrible people, maybe than social and monetary conditions that are. What's more, the formation of the advanced police power in the United States moreover changelessly modified the meaning of the police work. Policing had consistently been a receptive undertaking, happening just in light of a particular criminal demonstration. Brought together and administrative police officers, zeroing in on the claimed crime-producing characteristics of the perilous classes, started to accentuate deterrent wrongdoing control. The presence of police, approved to utilize power, could stop wrongdoing before it began by exposing everybody to reconnaissance and perception. The idea of the police watch as a precaution control component routinized the inclusion of police into the typical day-by-day occasions of everybody's life, a formerly obscure and exceptionally dreaded idea in both England and the United States. Parks 1976. Early American police divisions shared two essential qualities: they were famously degenerate and egregiously ruthless. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Life is Often if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.